Alright, welcome back, guys. So today, there's one important word that I actually haven't heard for a while up until recently, and it's gravitas. Now, when you look up the meaning of the word gravitas, it immediately says dignity and seriousness. But that's not necessarily the original meaning of gravitas. The original meaning was more like having dignity and weight. A man who had gravitas had a certain weight, a certain gravity, a certain air about him that would draw people to him. When you have gravitas, it's not something that you just magically are born with or something that just randomly happens one day. You become a man with gravitas. You have to work towards it throughout your whole life. I think one great example of someone with gravitas, a man with gravitas, would be Teddy Roosevelt. Now, just to list a few things that he did in his life, we have he served in the New York State Assembly from 1882 to 1884, served as the president of the New York City Police Board from 1895 to 1897, led the Rough Riders during the Spanish American War in 1898, served as the governor of New York from 1899 to 1900, became the vice president of the United States in 1901, then became the president, negotiated the end of the Russo-Japanese War in 1905, and he won the Nobel Peace Prize for that. He established the United States Forest Service and created several national parks and forests, created the Panama Canal, and greatly improved transportation and trade, wrote numerous books on history, politics, and naturalism, including The Rough Riders, The Naval War of 1812, and the African Game Trails. He also became a rancher for a certain period of time and then went on two different expeditions, one in Africa and one in South America. And in South America, he almost died, and his son almost died. And this is just to list a few things. This is not all the events, major events in his entire life. And the reason why I'm using Teddy Roosevelt as the example for a man with gravitas is because not only was he able to do so many things within his lifetime, but he drew people towards him because of what he did, because he had a certain air about him that he gained over time. I mean, when Teddy Roosevelt was a boy, he had tons of problems. He had severe asthma and he would have asthma attacks. He was very weak, always sick. And then one day, he noticed while hiking through the Alps with his parents that he could actually keep up with his father, even though he had all these ailments. And when he actually realized that he could do more than he thought he could, he started to work out. He started lifting weights, started boxing. So he went from a weak young boy to a man with gravitas who had so many different major events in his lifetime, and he had a weight about him. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to become the President of the United States. This doesn't mean that you have to negotiate the end of wars or anything like that. But it means you have to have certain goals because these things didn't just happen out of nowhere. He wasn't put into these situations just randomly. He actively strived to go after these things, to accomplish these things. And you can do the same thing. As a man, you just have to realize what you want to do in your life. And at some points, what you want to do is going to change, at least a little bit. For a while, he wanted to be on the New York State Assembly and serve as the president for the New York Police Board. And then later on in his life, just a little bit later on, he started ranching. And eventually, he lost all of his cattle to a terrible winter storm. But he went through all these different periods and chapters in his life, but they were all directed by him. He was the captain of his own ship. And there's so many other examples of great men like this throughout history who, because they are great men, why they're known as great men, is because they led their lives. They led their lives. And that's what you have to do. Now, to gain gravitas as a man, how do you do this? Well, first off, you start getting yourself in order. As Jordan Peterson said many years ago, clean your room. Some people take it as a joke, but I think it's very true. You have to start off with the things that are just right next to you. You have to start off with you. How you dress, how you speak, and how you act. And then you need to realize that you must have a plan for the future. You must have something to strive towards in the future. And this could be something for next week, next month, next year, but ultimately you should have a vision for your entire life. Obviously, things will change and you'll go down different paths, but you want to stay on the same path of a big main goal for your life, to give your life to something. And like I said, you don't just one day wake up and you have gravitas. It's something that you slowly get over time. But honestly, young men have such a major opportunity today with how many weak men there are in the world that you can gain a very, very good amount of gravitas by simply putting yourself together and working towards your idea for what you want your future to be like. Automatically, you are way above everyone else, above average, absolutely. That's how you start to gain gravitas. And as you continue down that path in life, you will eventually become a man, gravitas. Man with gravity, with weight, with dignity. That is what great men are. So anyway, guys, shorter video for this Friday. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. And I hope you all have challenged yourselves to try to find what you want for the future. To think bigger. To think bigger. I mean, with the amount of things that Teddy Roosevelt did, it's actually insane. It's insane. So you need to think bigger. You need to think way bigger than you are. And you need to start taking steps to make yourself a better man. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you guys on Monday.